All right. Ready to dive into something that probably affects you more than you think?
Let me guess.
Joint pain.
You got it. Aches and pains. Who doesn't have them?
Right. But we're going to get into why ignoring those aches could be a big mistake. We've got this article, The Real Cost of Ignoring Joint Pain. It's got tips to act before it's too late. That's part of the title.
Kitschy. I like it.
Yeah, and it's full of good stuff. I was thinking, before we get into the details, it's like that leaky faucet, dripping, you think it's just a drip, no big deal.
But then you get a huge water bill and maybe even damage. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's kind of what this article is saying about joint pain. Ignore it and it could turn into something way worse. So I'm curious, have you, and I mean anyone listening too, have you ever had like that persistent joint pain? Like it just won't quit. And did you ever stop to think like, what if I ignore this? What could happen down the road?
It's easy to just brush it off, especially when you're busy. But this article, it really drives home the point that ignoring joint pain is like this slow leak, as they call it, that can end up costing you way more than just some discomfort.
Like a slow leak. Gotta love a good metaphor. So when they say cost, what are we actually talking about here?
Well, the article breaks it down into like 3 buckets. Physical stuff, financial stuff, and then how it impacts your quality of life. And the first one, the physical costs, that's where this whole silent progression thing comes in.
Silent progression.
Yeah, it's like joint problems can get worse over time without you really noticing any big symptoms at first.
So sneaky.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like a thief in the night, stealing your mobility.
Yeah.
And by the time you realize something's really wrong, the damage might already be done.
Yikes. Okay, so let's break down these costs. You said physical, financial, quality of life. Where do we start?
Let's hit those physical costs first. So the article lays it out. Ignoring joint pain can lead to some serious damage, like think about the cartilage in your knees wearing down or bone spurs developing.
Ouch. Those don't sound fun.
Nope, not at all. And it's like, when you have a little tear in your favorite shirt and you just keep wearing it and the tear just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, until it's beyond repair.
Exactly. That's kind of what can happen to your joints if you ignore the pain. And then as that damage gets worse, you might start noticing that you can't move as well. Like simple things, reaching for something high up or bending down to tie your shoe, it becomes a struggle.
So it's not just about the pain itself. It's like it limits what you can do it.
Totally. And here's the thing. Your body's pretty smart, right? It tries to compensate for that pain by moving in different ways. But that can end up straining other joints and muscles.
Oh, so it's like a domino effect. One thing leads to another.
Precisely. And then there's the whole balance thing. If your joints aren't working right, your balance is off, which means you're more likely to trip, stumble, maybe even fall.
Okay, that's a little scary, especially as you get older.
Definitely a concern. And then, of course, one of the biggest physical costs of ignoring that joint pain, it's the risk of developing advanced arthritis.
Arthritis, yeah, I know it's a big deal, but can you, remind us why it's so bad?
Sure. So arthritis is basically like inflammation of the joints. It causes pain, stiffness, swelling, makes it hard to move. There are different types of arthritis, but osteoarthritis, that's the most common one. And it's basically just wear and tear on the joints over time.
Wear and tear.
Yep. And ignoring joint pain, it can make that wear and tear happen faster, which means you could be looking at some serious arthritis down the line.
So it's not just about being uncomfortable. It could be like debilitating pain and you can't move as well, right?
Exactly. But it's not just the physical stuff we have to think about. There's also the financial side of things, which this article gets into as well. Like ignoring joint pain, it can hit your wallet pretty hard.
All right, let's talk money. I have a feeling this isn't going to be a fun conversation.
Probably not. Think about it. If the damage gets bad enough that you need surgery, that's a huge expense right there.
Yeah, surgery's never cheap.
And then there's rehab, which can mean physical therapy, occupational therapy, maybe even assistive devices. All of that adds up.
And those therapy sessions, they can get expensive, especially if you need them for a long time.
Totally. And here's another thing to think about. What if the pain gets so bad that you can't work? You're looking at lost wages, maybe even disability, which can really mess with your finances.
And then you've got the ongoing costs of medication, doctor's appointments, maybe even more surgeries down the road. It really paints a pretty grim picture financially.
It does. But maybe the biggest cost of ignoring joint pain, it's how it affects your quality of life. That's where it gets really personal.
Yeah, this is where it hits home, right? Like how joint pain can stop you from enjoying life to the fullest.
Exactly. Imagine not being able to hike with your family because your knees hurt too much, or having to give up a hobby you love because it strains your wrists.
Sorry. Or even just simple stuff, playing with your kids or grandkids without wincing in pain.
Those everyday joys, they can be taken away by joint pain. And it's not just the physical limitations either. This article, it points out that chronic pain can mess with your sleep, make you tired, irritable. It can even make it hard to focus, which affects your work, your relationships.
So it's not just physical, it affects you mentally and emotionally too.
Absolutely. It's all connected. In fact, the article even mentions that people with chronic joint pain, they're at higher risk for depression and anxiety.
Makes sense. When you're in pain all the time, can't do the things you enjoy, it's got to take a toll on your mental health.
It's a vicious cycle. The pain leads to emotional distress, and then that emotional distress makes the pain worse. It's like they feed off each other.
It's like ignoring joint pain just sets off this chain reaction of bad stuff affecting every part of your life.
That's a great way to put it. Remember that leaky faucet? It's like ignoring a little drip and ending up with a flooded house.
So what can we do about it? There's got to be things we can do to stop this before it gets out of control, right?
That's where the next part of this article comes in. It's all about the early warning signs you shouldn't ignore. If you know what to look for, you can catch it early and maybe prevent some of that serious damage.
Okay, let's hear it. What are the red flags we should be looking out for?
One of the biggest ones is morning stiffness that lasts for more than 30 minutes.
Morning stiffness. I always thought that was just, part of getting older.
A little stiffness is normal, especially after you've been sleeping or sitting for a while. But if it's lasting longer than half an hour, especially every morning, that could be a sign that something's up.
Interesting. So, what else should we watch out for?
Pain that actually gets worse when you rest, that's another red flag. You'd think resting would make it better, but sometimes it can actually make it worse.
Wait, really? Why would resting make it worse?
Well, when you move your joints, it helps to get those fluids and nutrients moving around the cartilage, which keeps it healthy. But if you rest for too long, those fluids can kind of stagnate, which leads to stiffness and more pain.
So it's like our joints need to be oiled regularly to work right.
Exactly. Another thing to listen for is clicking or popping sounds in the joint.
Oh, I definitely get that, especially in my knees.
A little clicking or popping every now and then might not be a big deal. But if it's happening all the time or it's really loud, especially if there's pain or swelling, that could be a sign that something's wrong with the cartilage or ligaments.
Okay, good to know. Anything else?
Yep, keep an eye out for reduced range of motion. If you're finding it harder to bend, straighten, or rotate a joint, that's another sign that something might be wrong.
And that limited range of motion, that can really affect your ability to do everyday things, right?
Absolutely. It can make simple tasks like getting dressed, reaching for things, even climbing stairs. It can make all of that a lot harder.
So far, we've got morning stiffness, pain that's worse with rest, clicking or popping sounds, and limited range of motion. Is there anything else we should be looking for?
One more thing. Swelling or redness around the joints. That could be a sign of inflammation, which is a common symptom of a lot of joint conditions.
So basically, any unusual or persistent pain, stiffness, swelling, limited movement, anything like that, it's best to get it checked out by a doctor.
Absolutely. Early detection is key. The sooner you catch it, the better your chances of preventing long-term damage and keeping your joints healthy.
Sounds like the takeaway here is to listen to our bodies and not just dismiss those aches and pains as part of getting older.
Exactly. Our bodies are talking to us. We just need to pay attention and take action when they're trying to tell us something.
This is already so insightful. Now that we know what to watch out for, I'm really interested to learn what we can do to protect our joints and prevent further damage. Where do we go from here?
Well, that takes us to the next section of this article. It's all about proactive solutions, things you can start doing right now to take care of your joints.
Okay, I'm ready to get proactive. Let's dive into those solutions.
All right, so the article breaks it down into 4 main categories. Movement modifications, lifestyle changes, exercise and strengthening, and then professional intervention. And each one of those plays a big role in keeping your joints healthy.
That sounds like a pretty comprehensive approach. Let's start with those movement modifications. What are some simple things we can do in our daily routines to protect our joints?
Well, one of the easiest things, but it makes a big difference, is paying attention to your posture.
Ugh.
How you sit, stand, even how you sleep.
Posture, yeah.
Yeah, because like bad posture, it can put a lot of extra stress on your joints, especially your spine, your hips, your knees.
You know what? You're totally right. I catch myself slouching at my desk all day long.
It's a common thing, but we can definitely work on fixing it. The article even talks about using ergonomic equipment to help with good posture, like an adjustable chair, one of those standing desk converters, even just a supportive pillow for your lower back.
So it's all about setting up your workspace in a way that helps you keep everything aligned.
Exactly. And then throughout the day, those movement breaks, super important.
Movement breaks.
Yeah, don't just sit for hours and hours. Get up, stretch, walk around, give your joints a chance to move, de-stress a little bit.
I'm so bad at that.
I know, right? It's easy to get caught up in work or whatever you're doing. But even 5 minutes every hour, it can really help with stiffness and getting that blood flowing.
That's a good reminder. I need to set a timer or something.
Totally. And then when you're lifting heavy things, could be groceries, furniture, whatever, make sure you're using proper lifting techniques.
Lifting techniques.
Yeah, bend at the knees, keep your back straight, use those core muscles.
Protect that spine.
Exactly. That way, you're not putting all that strain on your back and your joints. And speaking of strain, what about all those high-impact activities? Like, do we have to give up running or tennis if we want to protect our joints?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. What does the article say?
Well, you don't necessarily have to give them up completely, but it's all about modifications.
Modifications.
Yeah, like if you're a runner, try running on softer surfaces, like trails, instead of concrete. You could also maybe cut back on how much you're running or add in some cross-training, like swimming or cycling. Those are lower impact.
So it's more about finding ways to adapt the activity, not just stopping it altogether.
Exactly. Listen to your body, know your limits, and adjust accordingly. And then moving on to those lifestyle changes we talked about, one of the big ones the article highlights is maintaining a healthy weight.
Weight. Makes sense.
Yeah, because that extra weight, it puts so much stress on your joints, especially your knees, hips, and spine.
It's like carrying around extra baggage all the time.
Exactly. And losing even a little bit of weight, it can make a huge difference in how much pressure your joints have to deal with.
So it's not just about how we move, but also what we're putting into our bodies.
Absolutely. What you eat, it plays a big role in joint health. This article talks about incorporating anti-inflammatory foods into your diet.
Anti-inflammatory foods, so like fighting inflammation from the inside out.
Exactly. Because that chronic inflammation, it can lead to joint pain and damage over time. So loading up on foods that help reduce inflammation, that's a good strategy.
So what are some of those joint-friendly foods? What should we be eating?
Lots of colorful fruits and veggies. Those are packed with antioxidants.
Antioxidants good for everything.
Pretty much. And then fatty fish, like salmon or tuna, those are high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are really good at fighting inflammation. Nuts and seeds are good too for those healthy fats. And then spices like turmeric and ginger, those have natural anti-inflammatory compounds.
It sounds like a pretty delicious and colorful way to eat.
It is. And on the flip side, the article recommends cutting back on processed foods, sugary drinks, unhealthy fats, all that stuff that can contribute to inflammation and weight gain.
So basically, making those smart swaps, choosing whole foods over processed, water instead of soda.
Exactly. And we can't forget about sleep. This article really emphasizes how important sleep is for healthy joints.
Sleep. Okay. Starting to see a theme here. It all seems to be connected.
It is, totally. When you sleep, that's when your body repairs and rebuilds tissues, including the tissues in your joints. If you're not getting enough sleep, that whole repair process gets messed up, and it can lead to more pain and stiffness.
So basically, sleep is non-negotiable when it comes to joint health.
Pretty much. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep every night. It gives your body time to recharge and recover. And speaking of things that can mess with your body, let's not forget about stress.
Stress, right. Seems like stress is linked to every health problem under the sun, and I'm guessing joint pain is no exception.
You're right, it's a big one. Stress can trigger inflammation, make your muscles tense up, which just makes the joint pain worse. So this article, it talks a lot about finding healthy ways to manage that stress.
Healthy ways to manage stress. Easier said than done sometimes.
Definitely. But it's important. Whether it's meditation, yoga, spending time outdoors, doing hobbies you enjoy, anything that helps you de-stress and unwind, it can really help your joints too.
So it's really about taking care of your whole self, not just focusing on the physical symptoms.
Exactly. Mind, body, spirit, it's all connected. So we've got movement modifications, lifestyle changes, stress management, all good stuff. But what about exercise? Isn't exercise supposed to be good for us?
Yeah, I'd think so.
It is. But not all exercises are created equal when it comes to joint health. The key is to choose activities that strengthen the muscles around your joints without putting too much stress on them.
Okay, so targeted exercises, I like that.
Exactly. Think about working the muscles around your knees, hips, back, shoulders, all those areas that tend to get achy.
So give me some examples. What kind of exercises are we talking about?
Well, like squats and lunges. Those are great for strengthening your legs, which helps support your knees and hips. And then planks, rows, those work your core and back muscles, which are super important for a healthy spine.
So it's like building a strong foundation to protect those weaker joints.
Exactly. And you don't have to go crazy with heavy weights or anything. Start with body weight exercises or use resistance bands and just gradually increase the intensity as you get stronger.
Okay, so there's options for everyone, no matter your fitness level.
Definitely. And this article, it also talks about balance exercises, which is something a lot of people forget about.
Balance exercises. Haven't done those since, I don't know, elementary school gym class.
Right. But they're so important for joint health, especially as we get older.
How so?
Well, good balance helps prevent falls, which can lead to some serious joint injuries, especially as we age. And our balance naturally declines as we get older, so it's something we got to work on.
So it's not just about preventing falls in the moment, it's about, like, building that stability for the long haul.
Exactly. And there are tons of easy balance exercises you can do. Standing on one leg, heel-toe walking, even just standing on an uneven surface for a few minutes each day. It all helps. Tai Chi and yoga are great for balance too.
Those are good ideas. What about low-impact activities? Are those still okay if we're trying to protect our joints?
Totally. Low-impact activities are awesome for joint health because they get your heart rate up without putting a ton of stress on your joints. Swimming, cycling, water aerobics, those are all great options.
Water aerobics, I haven't done that in forever. I always thought that was just for, older folks.
It's a fantastic workout for everyone. The water supports your joints while you're working out, so it's really gentle on your body.
All right, so we've covered movement modifications, lifestyle changes, targeted strength training, balance exercises, low-impact activities. That's a lot. Do we have to do all of these things to keep our joints healthy?
The good news is you don't have to do it all at once. The key is to find what works for you and make gradual changes to your routine. Start small and build from there.
So it's about creating a sustainable approach to joint health, something you can stick with.
Exactly. And that brings us to that last category of solutions from the article, that professional intervention piece.
Okay, so when do we know it's time to call in the experts?
If you're having persistent pain, limited movement, any of those warning signs we talked about earlier, don't wait. Talk to a doctor.
But, what kind of doctor? Should we go to our primary care doctor or see a specialist?
Your primary care doctor, they're a great place to start. They can figure out what's going on, maybe order some tests, and if you need to see a specialist, they can refer you to the right one.
Got it. So our primary care doctor is like the gatekeeper, guiding us to the right type of care. What kinds of specialists might we end up seeing for joint pain?
Well, you might get referred to a physiatrist. They specialize in physical medicine and rehab. Or maybe an orthopedist. They focus on bones and joints.
And I've heard of rheumatologists. What do they do?
Rheumatologists are the arthritis experts. They can diagnose different types of arthritis and recommend the best treatments, which could be medication, injections, even surgery in some cases.
Wow, it's amazing how specialized medicine has become. It's like there's an expert for every single part of the body.
There pretty much is. And beyond the medical doctors, this article, it talks about other professionals who could be super helpful too, like physical therapists. They're the movement experts.
Physical therapists, yeah. What exactly do they do?
They'll assess your range of motion, strength, flexibility, all that. And then they create a personalized exercise program for you based on your needs. They can teach you proper posture, lifting techniques, how to modify activities so you're not putting extra strain on your joints.
So they're like personal trainers for your joints?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then there are occupational therapists. Their focus is a little different.
Yes.
Occupational therapists, they help you stay independent and do the things you need to do in your daily life. So they might recommend adaptive equipment, maybe make changes to your home or workspace to make it easier on your joints, things like that. And they'll also teach you ways to manage your pain and conserve your energy while still doing the things you love.
Okay, so it's about making life easier and more manageable even when you're dealing with joint pain.
Exactly. And this might surprise you, but the article even mentions massage therapy as a potential tool for joint pain.
Really? I usually think of massage as more of a relaxation thing.
I know, right? But massage can actually be really effective for relieving muscle tension, improving circulation, and reducing pain. It can also help with flexibility and range of motion. It's not a cure-all, but it can be a helpful addition to other treatments.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground here. From simple tweaks to our daily routines to working with specialized medical professionals, it seems like there are so many options for preventing and managing joint pain.
And that's the great thing about it. There's a path for everyone. You just got to find what works for you.
It's all about taking charge of your health, not just waiting for things to get bad before taking action.
Absolutely. What really stood out to me from this whole deep dive is how connected everything is. It's not just about treating the pain, it's about looking at your lifestyle, making changes, taking a holistic approach.
It's about seeing the big picture, understanding how all the pieces fit together.
Well said. And if anyone's feeling overwhelmed by all this info, remember, you don't have to do everything at once.
Start small, maybe take a few minutes to stretch every morning or add some more of those anti-inflammatory foods into your diet.
Exactly. Every little bit helps. And once you start seeing the benefits, you'll be more likely to stick with it.
This has been such a great conversation, really eye-opening. I feel like I have a much better understanding of joint health now.
Me too. It's been a pleasure chatting with you about this.
Before we wrap up, any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners? Anything you want to emphasize?
Just this. If you're dealing with joint pain, you're not alone. It's super common, and there is help out there. Don't just suffer in silence. Talk to your doctor. Look into some of those resources we talked about. And remember, you have the power to take control of your joint health and live a full and active life.
That's a really encouraging message. So to our listener, we leave you with this. What's one small step you can take today to start prioritizing your joint health? It's an investment in your future well-being.
We hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the motivation to make that step. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.